Hello, it's Grandma Karen. We have learned a lot about your machine. Today's lesson will be a little longer. You will sew on 2 paper practice worksheets. You can watch the whole video and then do the practice sheets, or you can stop after each demonstration and sew the worksheet and then watch the next demonstration. In this video, we will be looking at the Bernina 440 Quilters Edition. We will learn about a few more buttons and knobs on your machine. Let's start by talking about 3 safety rules. In our last lesson, we talked about what we do with our hands as we sew. If you learn to use your hands the correct way, it will help keep your hands away from the needle. Rule number 1, listen to your mentor as he or she corrects your hand placement while you sew on the worksheets. It will help you stay safe. The second safety rule is do not look up while your foot is on the foot pedal. If you look up when someone calls your name, you must take your foot off the foot pedal. I usually just straddle the foot control like this photo with each foot on opposite sides of the controller if I have to look up at the TV or if I look up to see someone who's talking to me. Eventually you will be able to talk and sew, but you will always take your foot off the foot pedal when you look up. Your mentor will call your name ever so often to help you make this a habit. Okay, let's talk about rule number 3. In our last lesson, we talked about putting the presser foot on and off your sewing machine, but we did not talk about how to be safe when you're doing it. We have our hands near the needle many times. We change the presser foot, we put in a new needle, we thread the needle, and we clean and oil the machine, all of which you will learn to do soon. Here are 3 things you can do to be safe when your hands are near the needle. Choose the one that's best for you. Unplug or turn off your machine. This will also turn off the light. Or you can unplug the foot controller. This will let you keep the light on. You can also move the foot control way over to the side away from the foot. This is what I usually do. By doing one of these things, it will prevent you from accidentally stepping on the foot control while working near the needle. Your mentor will remind you. There are 3 types of home sewing machines. They are also called domestic sewing machines. One type is a treadle machine. This is powered by your feet. No electricity is used to sew on this kind of machine. The other 2 types are computerized and mechanical. The first photo is the treadle machine. It does not use the electricity to sew. The second is a mechanical machine. Yours is a computer machine. It has a display screen that mechanical machines do not have. When you turn on your machine, the display screen turns on. This is how you can tell what the settings are turned on to. These blue buttons are the pattern selector. These are the stitch length buttons and the stitch width buttons. The square in the center here is your display screen. This is the control the speed button. We're going to take a little closer look at these buttons now. The straight stitch is stitch number 1. When you turn on the machine, it will automatically select the straight stitch. The screen will show a picture of the straight stitch. If you change the stitch, it will show a drawing of the stitch you selected. To go back to a straight stitch, you can push the clear or delete button. Press the number 1 stitch or turn the machine off and then back on. We will be using the straight stitch to sew with today. Another thing that happens when you turn the machine on is that the needle will be lined up with the center of the foot and the guide on the all-purpose presser foot. The needle will be in the center position. Your machine lets you change the needle position. There is center and 5 positions to the left and 5 positions to the right. On the left, the arrows are pointing to the needle position buttons. You can push the left button or the right button to make the needle move. The green arrow on the display screen shows how you can tell where the needle is positioned. The large dot on the line shows the needle is in the center position. The dot will go right or left to show what position the needle is at. On the first photo, the needle is lined up with the center line of the presser foot. The other 2 photos show the needle at the far left and the far right. It will automatically go to the center position when you turn on your machine. If you change it, be sure to put it back to center before we start sewing today. These 2 buttons let you change how long each stitch is. When you turn on your machine, it will automatically go to around 2.4. This means that your stitches are 2.4 millimeters long. This is the normal stitch length for sewing. The red arrows on the display screen are pointing to where it shows how long each stitch is. This is showing a stitch length of 2.4. It is shown on a graph and as a number. Notice the tiny stitches between the two buttons. This helps you remember that these are the stitch length buttons. This class today is a no speeding class. As a beginner, you should go slow. We will practice going slow and going fast in a couple of minutes. When you sew slowly, you are more accurate. This is the speed control lever. To change the speed, move the toggle switch left to go slower and right to go faster. For your sewing today, start with the slowest speed and go up to about the middle speed as we get used to sewing. Your foot control also helps you control the speed while you're sewing. Push hard and it goes fast. Push softer and it goes slower. If you have it on slower speed, then when you push all the way down, it won't let you go as fast as when it is on full speed. Part of this lesson is to get used to how your foot control works. For best control, you should put your whole foot on the pedal, like this, not like this. Now it's time to pause the video and get your machine and worksheets ready. I will demonstrate how to sew on our 2 practice worksheets when you are ready. Read this list of how to get ready and then turn the video back on. If some of the things on this list are unfamiliar to you, watch lessons 1, 2, and 3. This is the first practice sheet. There are 3 straight lines on the right and 2 diagonal lines on the left. Okay, we're going to start at the top of this line here, and you might have to lean in and look through the little oval hole right there to see if you can, looks like it's at the top. And we're going to reach our hand back here and put the presser foot down. Okay, so the thing that you're going to remember is that this slit or the line on my machine here, on my presser foot, is going to line up with this foot, this line that we're sewing on. So your eye is not looking at the needle, it's looking in front of this right here. All right, so let's start sewing. So we're going to go trying to keep that guideline on the presser foot on the line, and I want you to use your foot control and try to go a little faster and go a little bit slower, and then sew to the end of the line. Keep watching in front of your foot, and when you get close to the end, you might want to see if your machine has this. So my machine stopped with the needle in the up position. A lot of machines don't do that, and we will talk about this more later, but I want you to see if yours does, and if it doesn't, then it might have stopped like this with the needle partway in, or it might even stop with the needle all the way down in your paper. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to use your hand wheel, turn it all the way towards you until that needle is in its highest position. And then you can reach through and lift up your presser foot. Okay, we're going to go to our next line. And this time, instead of just starting at the top, we are going to try to find the exact top. And we are going to take our needle and we're going to put it down. And I'm like leaning to the side to see where that's going, so it starts right at the top. You might have to lean forward or lean to the side to see it. And I'm going to put my presser foot down and I'm going to start sewing. Now this makes it so that you can get exactly at the top. And as I go, now I want you to practice turning it sideways. You're going to be using this left hand, your steering hand, to make it wiggle a little bit to the side. So I'm kind of like pushing to the side, and to get it back on, I'm going to push here. So I want you to go kind of off the line, and then I want you to go fast and see how it is harder to get it back on. If I'm going slow and I go off, then it's easier. I'm just doing gentle corrections. And you might not even have any place on your lines where it is off, but I want you to go off on purpose just so you can see what it does. And we're sewing to the end of the line. And as I get close to the end of the line, I might want to use my hand wheel to get to that exact bottom of the line. And then I'm going to put the needle up to its highest position, reach back, and put my presser foot up. So you can do this other line if you want. Now what I want you to do is I want you to start on one of these other lines. And we're going to do the same thing. One of these diagonal lines. We're going to put the needle down in, put the presser foot down. And on this one, we're going to learn what we need to do with our guiding hand. Now you could use both hands if you want to do your steering, but I want you to learn to use your guide hand too. So My machine is pretty big right here. Some machines, this throat ends right here. And so as I sew, you will see that this is going to catch on there. And it will probably catch on mine. And so you're going to use your guide hand. So I'm sewing on here, and you can sew fast or slow, however you want. And then I'm going to go like this with my guide hand. See how I'm holding it up like that, so that it doesn't catch on the side of your machine and stop your paper from going through the machine. And when you're done, I want you to look at all your, turn it over and look at all your lines. So let me get to the end right here. And I'm going to do a couple stitches to get there. And I'm going to turn my paper over, and I'm going to look at my lines that I sewed. And you can see my line is pretty straight. And this one over here, see how I was curved? So see if you can get them as straight as possible. You probably won't get them perfect, and that's okay because you're just beginning. This is practice sheet number 2. We will learn to pivot. This is a sewing term for going around corners. Let's look at some close-up photos, and then I will show you how we do this on the machine. I drew an orange line on this fabric so you could see where I sewed around the corner or pivoted around the corner with black thread. I sewed on the line until I got close to the corner. I stopped a few stitches before the corner and used the hand wheel to do the last few stitches. So then I get to the corner and I put my needle down in the corner. I put my presser foot up. Then I turn my fabric, or my paper in this case, while the needle is still in the fabric until it's lined up with the new sewing line. See that last photo? The presser foot is now going in a new direction. You need to put the presser foot down and sew. Okay, so now we're going to learn how to pivot on this second worksheet. And again, I'm going to start at the top. And I'm going to sew down to the end. I'm using my left hand as my guiding hand to make sure I stay on that line. And when I get close to the end, then I'm going to take a few stitches with my hand wheel until I get it right on the corner. Okay, so remember, presser foot is down and needle is down. Now I'm going to reach behind here and take my presser foot up, and I'm going to pivot this fabric or turn the fabric. And it is really bumping into the side of my machine here, so I am going to have to use my guiding hand to roll this over like this. And then I'm going to put my presser foot down, and I'm going to sew to the corner. And this is a short line, so I'm going to go slow. And when I get to the corner, I'm going to let go of that. Okay, I'm going to use my hand wheel and put it down. And you can see here how this is running into my machine, so I'm having to hold that. Now I'm going to reach back, put my presser foot up, and turn it. Now it's not on the side anymore. So I'm going to put my presser foot back down. And right here, I have this little line on my foot is now lined up with the new line. And so I'm just going to go and sew until I get to the next corner. I'm not going to show you all the corners, but when you get to this pointy corner, you will have to, it'll be a little bit harder for you, the pointy corners. So just try to go around the whole maze, and then when you're done, turn it over and see how well you did on your corners. And ask your mentor for help figuring out how to do it better. I hope you had fun today. I love sewing, and I hope you will too. Your homework is to do a little review. Tell your mentor, teacher, or relative the following things. Stop the video on the homework slide to take a photo. 1. Tell your mentor 3 things you need to do to stay safe while you're sewing. 2. How do you put the needle in the center position, and how do you go slow? 3. How do you change the stitch, and how do you change the stitch length? 4. Where do your eyes look when you're sewing on a line? 5. How do you more accurately start and stop at the beginning and end of a line? 6. How do you pivot on a corner? What do you do with the presser foot, with the hand wheel, and the needle? 7. Sew on the 2 practice sheets if you haven't already done so. In our next lesson, we will sew on 2 more practice papers. We will practice sewing on curves, and we will try different stitch lengths. See you next time. And here's a note for the mentor. Call their name sometimes while practicing. Remind them to take their foot off the pedal when they look up. Correct their use of hands. The left hand guides and the right hand straightens. Start slow. Let them do the first row on each practice sheet on their own. Gradually add in corrections. Help them remember to use the hand wheel to stop and start sewing in the correct place. Encourage accuracy in pivoting. Praise them. Don't demand perfection. Print out more pages if they need to have more practice. Thank you for helping someone to sew.